All right. Technology, it's not my friend. I have accepted that I have reached that age where my children help me out with things. So, anyways, as I was saying, welcome to setting yourself up for success with Amazon ads. I'm Quinn Ward. And right now, the question you may have is, who am I and why should you care? I love this particular group because really this phrase is one of the things looking back. I'm like, I should have known that there was something a little not neurotypical about me earlier, because that's how I used to how I used to introduce myself is I'd tell them who I was, and then I'd be like, who are you and why should I care? But turning it around today. So I started my career working as a content writer, writing how-to articles. If you need to know how to put together a crib or how to change the oil in your car, I'm your guy. So unfortunately, one of my friends saw it got me writing, but it was kind of soul-sucking. So she dared me to write my first book. I did. I put it out. And it was during the indie gold rush. And I figured that success was just going to come my way. As soon as I had everything out there, the book is out there. People are going to buy it. And I very quickly learned this is not the field of dreams. You have to do more than just put the book up. So I spent the first half of my career, because even though I knew that I wasn't doing it the right way, I didn't know how to do it the right way. And really in 2019, I hit that point where I needed to either figure out what I was doing or I needed to quit, because I didn't have time to take care of the family and work full-time in a management position, write full-time, everything else. 2020 broke the six-figure ceiling for the first time and haven't looked back since. Now I work as the senior advisor with Author Ad School, and I'm also the founder of Indie Author Helper, which is literally just getting ready to launch, with a focus on helping neurodivergent authors achieve their dreams without throwing the computer across the room. So because, as pleasant as it might be to throw the computer across the room, it's very, very rarely the right thing to do. So first, what you're not going to hear me say. I'm not going to tell you that running Amazon ads are easy, because they can be tricky. One of the biggest tricky things is there are a lot of things that aren't absolutes. And one thing I've learned with all of my neurodivergent authors that I've worked with is, well, almost all of them would much rather have an absolute. We don't like the abstract, right? So you're not going to hear me say that ads are a great hyperfixation hobby that you can look at for the next week or two and then move on to the next challenge, the next hobby, the next whatever. Tossing money into ads will guarantee financial success and worldwide acclaim. Also, not true. There are things that you have to do. And really, this fallacy is really what we're here to talk about today, because just throwing more money at it does not mean that it's going to make a book that's currently struggling an automatic success. And the other thing is, I do not believe that there is one way to run successful Amazon ads. There are a lot of teachers out there, and many, many, many of those teachers have great philosophies. The thing is, what is going to work for you? Now, what we are going to look at today, we're going to look at what to optimize before you even jump over to the Amazon ads dashboard. Next, we're going to set up the dashboard to see what information matters. And then we're going to, as long as we have time, we're going to quickly walk through how to set up your first 2 Amazon ads. And just so you know, if we don't have time, because I haven't timed out this presentation, I will go ahead and make a video of those, and I'll put them up on my website so that you can go ahead and watch it there. All right, so running your Amazon ads is not going to start with the ads dashboard. We can jump right into building ads, but you're going to increase your chance of success if we do some housekeeping first. Optimization is one of my main things that I do before running ads on any book for 2 reasons. First, we need to see if our book fits on the shelf. Everybody wants to stand out, but there is standing out in the right way, and then there's sticking out like a sore thumb. And really, we need to make sure that every piece of our product, of our book, is going to stand out for the right reasons. And the second point is Amazon runs on algorithms. If we don't give it good data, it can't give good data back to the ads so that it runs to the right readers. And doing these steps is going to help you understand where to focus your advertising efforts. All right. Yes, and no, you cannot yeet the computer. Just, I see that comment there, no yeeting. All right. The good news is once we learn how to do this, you're going to start doing it as part of your publishing process, which means you're going to be set up for success from release day. And that's really another reason to focus on this ahead of time, is because I don't want you to constantly, for the rest of your career, be focusing on what did I screw up in the past and how do I fix it? Okay. So the first question we're going to ask is your sales page ads ready? I could go over the entire hour and probably 3 or 4 talking about the different pieces of your sales page and how to make sure that they're optimized. But I want to touch base today just on giving the reader the best first and second impression possible. So the first question I always ask when I look at a new book, whether it's one of mine, whether it's an author who I'm helping run ads, whether it's somebody I'm coaching, is I will look only at their book cover and say, does this book fit on the shelf? Because there are many times that you should be able to pick out little things simply based on the cover. Okay. When we're looking at sweet romance, one thing that stands out is it has at least, but many times over half of the cover is going to be the sky of a landscape. Not certain why that has become a hallmark of that genre, but it has. Whether it's a farm scene, whether it's a beach scene, it has a large percentage of sky. When you look at a thriller, it's going to have that, if I scream, nobody can hear me feeling, right? There's just that desolation, that fear. The fonts on your thriller covers are all going to be similar. With urban fantasy, we have the purples and the blues, and we have the sense of magic, things like that. And so if we were to look at just your cover, and I know nothing else, could I determine what your genre is? The next thing I look at is I go to the sales page. Is there a hook that will draw my eye from the book cover over to the blurb? Because we need to keep the reader's eye moving. And the large bolded text, and I'll show you an example of this shortly, is going to make a difference. Is your blurb well formatted? Even if you think you have your blurb well formatted, I will always check this, because we're relying on Amazon, and gremlins get into their systems. And I have seen people that I have been on a screen share with them as they have formatted their blurb, pasted the HTML coding into the blurb section, and then something happens. And it's one great big block of text, which then makes them look like the dummy, not Amazon. And it's not their fault. So always make sure that you check from time to time. And then, is your price like Goldilocks? This is a big one. And I think this is probably an even bigger one with those of us within the neurodivergent community, because this little thing called rejection sensitive dysphoria can be a real witch, right? We worry that if we price too high, people aren't like, why would somebody pay that much money for my book? And we don't want people seeing $3.99 or $4.99 and turning away. The problem is, as the indie publishing boom has gone on, we've wound up getting into this period where readers are savvy and they can tell, or they think they can tell, if a book is going to be a good value. And the good value price has actually changed. It used to be 99 cents was a perfectly acceptable, great value price. But now 99 cents is seen as, that's a common price point for the content creators who are using, content mills and putting out books as fast as they can, not caring at all about the end product. They just want to they're willing to take 35 cents at a time. They're relying on just churning, right? Readers are starting to see this. And so there are times where if the market average in your genre is $4.99 or even $5.99 we're starting to see in some markets, and you're priced at 99 cents because you don't want to ask too much of your readers, right? That winds up giving the reader the implication that your book might be cheap rather than inexpensive. Okay. If we have time, Ellis, I will go ahead and actually run through how I go ahead and figure out pricing, because it doesn't have to be super difficult. And if not, remind me and I will add that to the list of content that I want to get created right away. And Dana brought up another great point. Always get your blurb copy edited. Yes. I don't care how many times you read over it. Always, always, always have somebody have it copy edited. Have more eyes look at it. Because there is literally almost nothing worse than realizing, like right before your pre-order locks out for publishing, that you have a typo in the blurb, and you go in to try and edit that typo out because you don't want to go into release day with a typo in your blurb. And then Amazon, for whatever reason, it gets caught up in one of those gremlins and Amazon cancels your pre-order. I'm not saying that's ever happened to anybody who's standing at a podium in this room, but it may have. Okay. And it really, it's a horrible feeling, because then, it's like, well, in hindsight, we should have just gone in with the typo. But yes, copy editing is huge. And another thing with copy editing is actually making sure that read it out loud, because you want to reduce what's called echoes, where you're using the same word multiple times too close together. So again, that's something that we could go over for an hour or longer, but I don't want to get stuck on that because I know my strengths, and blurb writing actually is not one of them. All right. And then what categories are displaying on your sales page? This is even more important because Amazon has recently been making changes that make it so that the categories that you choose, it's not necessarily your top ranking categories that are going to show up on the sales page. I recently had an author who I work with who steampunk was by far and away his most relevant category. I mean, his book is by all definitions a steampunk book. And when you looked, he wasn't ranking at all in steampunk. But then when we went to the steampunk category, he would have been number one if it was ranking him there. So always make sure that your categories are as relevant as possible. The thing that I always mention about this, I told you it was going to be hard for me to not go too deep into various things here. The thing I always mention with categories is just because your book has the thing doesn't mean your book is the thing. Okay. The example I always give is Die Hard. We can call it a Christmas movie all we want, and it has Christmas in it, but it's not truly a Christmas movie. Okay. You're not going to see that on the shelf right next to the Santa Claus or anything like that. It has the Christmas. It is not the Christmas. So even though it is, I'm not here to start a fight over whether or not it is. And then a quick note with your KDP details page. We're not going to spend a ton of time here, but we're going to take a look at it. For the love of all things sugary goodness, I had to think of a great way to say this because I don't, I wanted a fun way. Check your KDP keywords before you run ads. All right. I don't care how much you think you've got it down. There are times you don't. Are there 7 of them? You would be surprised at the number of people I see who don't have 7 keywords. My early publishing career, you remember all those mistakes I made. This was one of them. Instead of thinking of them as terms that describe your book, ask yourself if the keywords cover things reader would search for to find your book. Okay, prime example is, and Amazon tells you to describe your book, but that's not necessarily the best thing to do. Early Quinn used the term ugly cry as a keyword because it was a perfectly acceptable keyword. It described my book. It was an ugly cry. However, it's not a great keyword, right? But when I changed that keyword to, contemporary, or what was it? Like high angst contemporary romance. all of a sudden it's a much better keyword to use. And again, that's one of the things that I love to talk about. But the big thing is make sure that your keywords, you think like a reader when you're entering those keywords. And then the next thing to do is make sure you scroll down on the page to make sure your main categories are actually relevant. Again, this goes right along with the categories that are listing on your page. But if you try to get out of those categories that are listed on your page, but one of them is connected to one of those two main categories, Amazon won't remove it. And then the reason we're doing this is because the algorithm is going to like this, okay? Algorithm being happy is going to give you more impressions, and then we're hoping more clicks and more sales. So I'm going to try here. Let me just see. Give me a second to get into my KDP, because of course I knew I would forget to set something up. And I need to change my share. There, we'll do it this way. All right. So looking real quickly, I'm going to first just super fast show you those two things on the details page. Because these are the biggest things we need to make sure that we have optimized on the back end. Making sure that these 7 keywords all fit. And then these are those categories that I was talking about. So make sure that these categories both fit. All right. And then we will jump in. And I will go ahead and Quinn Popcorn. I'm changing my name, everybody. I shall henceforth be known as Quinn Popcorn. All right. So here, this is an example of what an optimized sales page we hope would look like. And this is one of my perennially best-selling books. So I'm assuming that it's working for me. Yes, you can, Dana, you can absolutely use phrases as keywords. In fact, it's recommended that you do. So they don't have to be single words, and you can repeat if it's part of a phrase, you can absolutely repeat from one to the next. Oh, hang on, because I'm just all over the place here. So here is what we're going to take a look at. Here we have a book cover that when I redid these covers, it was a market cover. There are still elements that definitely fit in with my market. There are some that are starting to fall aside, and that will happen over time. But here we see a reasonably to market cover. This is that hook that I was talking about. So your eye goes from here straight down to here. And then when we come over here, we can see that this is not all displaying as one big chunk of text. It introduces both of the characters. It does not work to explain the book. This is not a book report. It solely works to sell the book. Okay. And then we have a selling paragraph. And then this one happens to have a disclaimer because it is a book that I have republished. So that once we get this part done, now we know that we are ready to keep going. All right. So the next thing we're going to have to do is set up a dashboard for success. The ads dashboard can quickly become a cluttered mess if we don't take the time to do some simple organization. Okay. Simple. I don't want it to be complicated. And there are so many statistics that can really become overwhelming. Especially if you are like me, I am very spreadsheet averse. But because it's my job, I've had to figure out the best way to make this work for me. So this is going to make it easier to find what we're looking for. And it's also going to help us when we get to the point of analyzing our ads to know what's working. And this is one of those steps that you're going to tweak it over time to not only for what is going to fit your process, but also Amazon makes changes from time to time. Things will change. The big thing is there are some fairly universal things that we can pay attention to and should pay attention to, and other things that we can just kind of put aside. What we pay attention to. First and foremost, and this I need you to remember from this moment forward as you're doing ads, the AMS, Amazon Marketing Services dashboard, the entire system, it is a system not created for authors. It is created for Amazon users, Amazon sellers, and other marketplaces, but we get to use it. And as such, there are plenty of things that it's not going to serve us. There's data that we don't need, and there's data points that are available that we'll never use. Okay? And they're even worse, there's data that's more harmful to some authors than others. What I mean by that is, ACOS is a big one. ACOS, I had somebody in an event yesterday say, there's a big discrepancy between the KENP on my ads dashboard and what's showing on my royalties page. What would you read into that? And I said, well, what I would read into that is you're a fiction author who sells primarily ebooks, and you're probably in Kindle Unlimited. And all three things were true. We are really Kindle Unlimited authors, and especially those who are primarily ebook, we are at a huge disadvantage because your KENP, first of all, it's got awkward tracking. And second of all, it's never actually going to be, it's not a metric that tracks into the ACOS, which is what a lot of people look at when they want to see what's working and what's not. So the first thing that we do is we're going to clear out some clutter. All right. I'm going to walk through this, so don't panic. And I will have the slides available after so that you can take a look at things. So at the top of the screen, there's a graph with various metrics. Not spending time on it, partly because they are literally in the process of changing it. They're rolling out a new dashboard right now. Makes my job fun. But the big thing I recommend is impressions and clicks as your active metrics. You'll use the others from time to time, but impressions are going to tell you, are my ads serving? Clicks are going to tell you, are people interested in my ads? From there, you can go on to see, are people then buying? Most of our time, we're going to click at the bottom, spend on the bottom table. Important metrics, end date. Because if you don't have that end date showing and you're using end dates, all of a sudden your ads turn off. And if you want to know if your ads are working or not, let your ads expire. See what happens to your sales. Because once your ads are working, no matter what the metrics show you, you're going to know if something went wonky with your ads. The other day, I had my sales were at about 20% of what they typically are. And because I was doing some training videos, I had put an end date onto my ads. And all of a sudden, I was like, oh, those expired yesterday. So end date, budget, impressions, spend, clicks, click-through rate, cost per click, orders, and sales. And again, I'll go ahead and have the slides available so you don't have to remember all of those. I'll show you a visual here in a second. Metrics that could matter. ACOS, I put that up there only because I'm starting to find that with those who write primarily nonfiction, sell a lot of paperbacks. For some reason, paperbacks track a lot better than ebooks and are not in KU. ACOS can be a sign. I still don't trust it because we know that the tracking is less than ideal, but it can at least be an indication of trends. Your KENP and the KENP royalties, you only really need to have those turned on if you're in Kindle Unlimited. Turn off everything else, okay? So let me pull this over here real quick just to make sure I'm in the right dashboard because I am in so many different people's dashboards. I don't want to be looking at the wrong one and share it up on the screen. All right. So when you start running ads, you are likely going to see your page looking something like this, okay? You're going to have campaign status, so on and so forth. Top of search, this is one that a lot of readers or authors like leaving on. Honestly, it doesn't do a whole lot of good because that's just how many times did your book show up in those very top 2 spots? And a lot of times what we found is when readers go to a search page, they're first looking for something. They're looking for a specific author's book or whatever. And so it may not be the best it may not be the best metric for us. So the way to fix this is going to be to click on columns and then customize. And then right here, we're going to just turn off whatever we don't need on. So you see, I'm going to leave on my end date, my budget, my cost type doesn't matter. All of our ads are going to be CPC. Turn on my impressions, off the top of search, turn these on. I don't do my ACOS. And then I leave my KENP on. I don't leave the royalties on because it doesn't matter to me because, again, that tracking is not, it's simply an indication. It is nowhere near accurate. But then everything below that I will turn off. So then now this is what the dashboard looks like. And we can go ahead and then when you're looking at things, you can go ahead and click around for, whatever it is you're trying to see. The other thing I would do is I always like to leave this right now. It'll default to lifetime, which is only going to show you month by month. I like to do either the last 30 days or this month. So at this point in the month, I only really care about February because we're deep enough into the month. But obviously that very first week of the month, I like to have a little bit more data to look at. So that's what I will do in that situation. All right. So now the ads dashboard is all set up. And now over halfway into the speech, we can finally start talking about ads. And this honestly can be the most confusing, frustrating, insert whatever adjective you want right there. You can scowl, you can cuss at me and call me names because like I just mentioned, there are not a lot of absolutes here. But like I said earlier, don't throw your computer. You will regret it. Don't throw things at your computer screen. You will regret it, I promise. No right way. I said it before, I'll say it again. There's no right way, just like there's no right way to write or publish your books. This is a simplified process that I've kind of molded from my time working with Author Ad School, from other things that I've learned from other teachers, but also just my own experimentation. Whenever I'm teaching something new, I always experiment with it myself first and then test it with some of my authors and then continue rolling it out to bigger groups. All right, so a couple words of advice. You're going to, you may, not necessarily, but a lot of authors, you want to go ahead and jump right in and start running ads on everything. Don't, okay? Remember, I told you that I screwed up the first half of my career so that you didn't have to. And this is one of those things. When you're learning, when you're figuring out how the ads work and everything, really, it's going to serve you so well to just take it slow. Start with a single series. Start with a single series starter. Once you get that figured out and you know that that one's running, move on to the next one. I call these pillars because what I want to do is I want to build my income from one, move on to the next, move on to the next. Okay, so you're going to, essentially, it's a rinse and repeat thing. Another thing to remember is not every book can or should have ads running to it. I'm not going to run ads to every book in my series. And over time, I'm going to realize that there are some of those books that I wrote that I absolutely loved that simply, they're great backlist books. They're not good books to get people in. You are the tour guide through your universe. What we're running ads for is to get people in, but then through our back matter, you'll go ahead and get people reading through the rest of your backlist. Okay, so you don't have to advertise and try and get them to see every one of your books. And seriously, let's not go ahead and start everything all at once. So portfolios are your friend. They will help keep you organized and keep you from getting overwhelmed. Even if you're starting with one book, set up a portfolio for it. Okay, and I'll show you the portfolios. I'll walk through all of this as soon as I get through this part. But basically portfolios, organization is your friend. How do you know which book to start with? I look at the one that has the best potential for success. And part of that is going through that sales page step. if I have a book that doesn't have a marketable cover and the blurb is a wreck, the categories are a wreck, the keywords are a wreck, I'm not going to start ads to it. I'm going to figure out which one place I should start with. And to be quite honest, if nothing is ready, I'll look at what is a long series. Okay. Do I have a series that's longer than the others, that's closer to meeting the reader expectations, so on and so forth, that has good reviews, etc. And that's where I'll start. Today, I'm going to just walk through 2 quick types of ads, but these are my favorite types of ads because they take your thoughts and feelings out of the equation. You don't have to put in a lot of guesswork, a lot of research, anything like that. So these are my favorite ads to start with. The first is the auto-targeting ad, which this is my favorite ad because if you properly optimize your book, it becomes the workhorse that's going to tell you, Amazon is showing these readers my book and these readers are buying my book. And now you can go ahead and put up more ads. On the flip side, if it's not working, it shows me that I have work to do. And almost every single time, if I see somebody's auto-targeting ads are not getting impressions and other ads are, if we go and we look at the keywords, there are weaknesses with the keywords. And once we fix those weaknesses, suddenly our ads can work better. Okay. I'm not going to read through all these steps. I'm just going to leave it here for a second. And I just wanted it here so that it was in the slides. But this is for those of you who like a step-by-step plan. This walks you through each step of creating an auto-targeting ad. Okay. Next is the category ad. These ads run to any other book in the category that you're running it to. Notice I said any, not every. That's because the algorithm does play a role here as well, which is why we need those keywords optimized. The process to this is very similar to running an auto-targeting ad. There's just a couple of little changes that you're going to make in the options on the ad creation page. So here is going to be the step-by-step for creating a category targeting ad. Again, I'm not going through all of these steps. I simply wanted this here so that if you're somebody who needs the step-by-step instructions, there you go. All right. So now we are going over and I'm going to walk you through how to create an auto-targeting ad as well as how to create a category ad. So first, you're going to click on the Create Campaign button from your dashboard. And we're going to click, this is a sponsored product ad. Next, we're going to choose which book we want to run an ad to. And they have recently changed this so that it is case sensitive, which annoys me every time to no end. But I'm going to say, we'll make these for my paperback. And just for simplicity, right now, if it's easier for you to create a standard ad instead of creating custom ad copy, do it. Okay. I don't want something holding you back at this stage of the game. So I've selected my book. It says auto targeting right here. Now in the default bid, I'm going to put that 39 cents. All right. And we're going to start out with dynamic down only. So what this means is I tell Amazon I'm willing to spend 39 cents. If Amazon thinks I'm not as likely to get the conversion, it might only put me into the auction for 20 cents. The great thing there is I'm not going to always spend 39 cents. The bad thing is from 21 cents to 39 cents, I'm out of the running. Okay. Here is where you're going to put in your campaign name. I always like to come up with an acronym for my book. So this is WP. Seriously, it's super creative. It's wild pitch. Next, I'm going to say that this is a category ad. This is our auto ad. And then what version of the book. So I want to know that it's to my paperback. And then if you've set up portfolios, which I'll walk you through real quick, you would go here and choose your wild pitch portfolio. So I just need to find that. And right here, I've got wild pitch. And then don't worry about this limit. You won't get this error I have to go and make a change on my ads. But then you would just go ahead and hit launch campaign. Yeah. Oh, one step I forgot because I was distracted by that error. Put in your budget. I always start with a 5-cent budget or a $5 per day budget. Don't worry about setting up multiple ads and all of a sudden having, $25 a day in budget or whatever, because Amazon is not like Facebook and some other sites. You really have to work hard to get Amazon to spend all your money. Now, the next one we're going to create, just walking through this real quick again, is your sponsored product ad. So again, we're going to hit create. This part of the process is exactly the same. So I'm just going to kind of rush through. Choose my book. This time I'm going to choose manual targeting, and I'm going to choose product targeting. And then here, Amazon actually will give us recommended categories to search or to run ads to. Not every category has ads available to it. So don't worry if you have to go to a slightly bigger category. I can go into that more later. But I always start with whatever the suggested ones are. I do one ad or one category at a time. So there I've got my sports romance. Again, I'm going to do down only. I'm going to say this is for wild fish. It's a category ad. And it's sports romance. And it's for the paperback. And again, I will choose the portfolio, choose my budget, and hit launch campaign. And it's really just that simple. Okay. So that's what you're going to do there. And now you have your first 2 ads running. All right. So now we finished just a few minutes early. So if you have any questions, I'm going to go back over so I can see if anybody's been asking questions. Let me see. All right. Seeing. So yes, why 39 cents? So 39 cents that's what we found is a good conservative bid to start with. It's low enough that you can start getting impressions, but it's not so high that you risk not being profitable. Okay. Because if you bid too low, then you don't even get to enter the auction because other people are bidding higher. However, a big mistake that we see is people thinking that they need to bid really high. Okay. And you don't. I have somebody who spends over $40,000 every single month on Amazon ads. Don't freak out. She makes the money that allows her to say, can you please spend more on my Amazon ads? But she spends over $40,000 a month on Amazon ads and has actually asked me to try spending more without raising the bids. Because what we found is the gross royalties didn't go up all that much when we raised the bids. So there are other methods that we've used in order to get those profits up. And her highest ads are at like about 80 cents. And that's months down the road after we've optimized and really narrowed ads down and gotten into some advanced techniques. All right. And then Samantha has a great question. Says, I don't really understand the bid concept. What is the auction? All right. So if I come over here and we'll just go to my page again. I still want to rename myself Quinn Popcorn, you guys. I think that's a great name. All right. So you can see here that this says sponsored. So this is a sponsored product carousel. And so each of these, they're running ads to these books. And so the auction is essentially, everybody says, I'm willing to pay X amount of money to be shown. Right? So it's not like you're just paying an admission to get in and say, I will pay 25 cents to get in here. It starts at whatever their algorithms start with and then decides the placement based on what different people bid. So you have various places that your ads can show up that bidding goes for. These carousels are the main place. But then this one and this one are also both sponsored products or sponsored sections. Honestly, those are two sponsored ones that I would question their targeting. But, you know, I mean, who am I to say that? This one is another sponsored one that most authors aren't eligible for. And then this is another one that we can get. Those are the sales page ones. And then if I was to go, let me see here, into the Kindle store, if I search this way, so then anything, you will see various things here. So this section at the top is all, that's a sponsored ad. These top two slots here can be sponsored. And then there are other sponsored sections, like you can see here, this Claudia Kirk book. That one is a sponsored ad as well. Okay, so you're essentially putting yourself in the running. It's almost like an application type process. All right. Do we have any other questions? I can't tap dance, so. Okay, so the things that I will say about series is always, always, always running ads to the first in series. That is your entry point. Okay, it's also the book that's going to convert the best. Because remember, when we're running ads, we're not trying to run ads to reach our existing readers. We're trying to run ads to reach new readers, right? And so a new reader isn't as likely to buy your newest book in the series as they are to buy the first book in the series. The other thing that running to the first book in the series can do is it can remind people, they get that visual, recognition. Oh yeah, I really like this author. Let me go see if they have anything new. So they might not even click on your ad, right? But they might go and look to see if you have anything new that they can read. So the first in series always, and the most recent. So if I put out a new release, I will run ads for about the first month after it releases. And then I stop those and I go back to only running on the first in series. Okay. Let's see. Thinking back to the past, what mistake in running ads did you make that taught you the most? Trusting Amazon with the suggested bids. That's the biggest thing. And really fully trusting the Amazon ads dashboard. Because if we go and we look, I did need that one. Let's go look at my ads dashboard. All right. And this is kind of showing that shiny underbelly of an author who, yeah, Dana, I have a new release coming out in May, and I really need to get that book written. But that'll be my first release in over a year. Okay. So if I was to look at this month, and you can see here, oh, hang on. That's what Amazon's been doing that to me lately. All right, this month. So you can see that if we look here, it says I've got 13,000 KENP. It says that I have a whopping $18 in sales, right? That would be pretty scary. If I look here, it says I've got, well, and let's take off clicks for just a second and add in the KENP royalties. So if I add those together, that's what, $76, $77, $78, something under $80, right? On $272 of spend. That would make you really concerned, right? That looks bad. However, if I was to go to my royalties dashboard, I'm already, without having a release in a year, I'm already coming up on $2,000 for the month. So do I trust the ads dashboard or do I trust my royalties? Okay. Like I said, it was just 2 days ago that I logged on and my sales were in the gutter. And I went, oh my gosh, what's going on? Luckily, I know at this point that the first thing I need to look at is come over and look at my ads dashboard, because there's something going on my ads dashboard if my sales are down that much. So that's the big thing. All right. Dana said, how does making a book free get you sales? So first of all, I only do free as a limited time thing, because if I'm doing free, I'm doing it as a promotion. And read through rate, that is exactly how you make your money. Essentially, think of it as the loss leader in the store, or the Black Friday absolute blowout deals, right? Those are the loss leaders. They're not making any money. They're actually losing money on those. But once they get you in the store, you buy other things. In this case, if I make exploration is not only the first in a series, it's also the first in a universe. So I can theoretically have somebody read through 17 books in shorter series if they start there. So read through is king. It's the other topic that I really get super passionate about. And then Dana says, I've wondered if you've been okay. It's been busy with this stuff. So I've been putting so much into the coaching. And honestly, last year was just kind of a kick down. And so I was glad that I had the coaching that I could really focus on. All right. And then Dana also reminded me portfolios. So we'll go ahead and go into that. I've gone over a little bit. I'm sorry. Okay. So if you click on this portfolios tab, you can see here that I have links for the various portfolios. So I'm going to click on the create portfolio button. And then you literally just put in the name of the next book that you want to create a portfolio for. Now I have this portfolio, and I can go ahead and start creating campaigns that will go into this specific portfolio. All right. So I think it's about time for me to say goodbye, and thank you to everybody for having me here today. Thank you for inviting me. This has been a great time. Again, if you have questions once we're all done, go ahead and email me, Quinn at indieauthorhelper.com, and we'll go ahead and get those questions answered. And yeah, Dana, so no graphic ads. We don't do any, we actually can't at this time do graphic ads. So I don't know if that's something that will be added down the road, but it's not something available to authors on Amazon right this second for most authors. All right. And then I'll go ahead and jump out to the lounge area, so that into the main area, so that if anybody has questions, come on out and let's chat.